and last night ran very, very fast in the heats and was only a couple of tenths outside the Olympic qualifying standard. There's 25 Stainings from Western Kentucky University, one of several Western boys over here. It's John Bycourt on the inside, but Dennis Coates has surged to the front and is establishing himself. So they'll miss the water jump, of course, on the first lap. A 7.5 lap race this, with 28 hurdles and 7 water jumps. And the Olympic qualifying standard of 8 minutes 32 seconds should be within the scope of the man leading now, Dennis Coates of Gateshead. Refrigerator engineer. There's Andy Holden in second place, and Stainings tucked inside in third. And 27 there, Clive Thomas. And the tall figure of Peter Griffiths really is a big man. So Dennis Coates establishing himself ahead of Clive Thomas. Stainings in third. These three, they're all strung out well back. 16 and Andy Holden there. Andy Holden of Tipton Harriers is a dentist. And no change in the order. Now over in the triple jump.
Evans. Have you got it? It's Coates, Holden, Staining, Thomas, Bycourt rather, and Evans.
As they come out of the wider jump, water jump, and into the home straight. The men's 3,000 metre steeplechase, just over 4 laps to go, and it's Dennis Coates leading and John Bycourt in second place, Tony Stainings third, Andy Holden fourth, Dick Evans in fifth. And these, the 5 who look to be in contention at the moment. An interesting battle on between Dennis Coates and Tony Stainings of Bristol. Stainings, remember, competed for Great Britain in the Europa Cup semi-final. And of course it will be Coates' aim not only to get near that Olympic qualifying standard of 8 minutes 32 seconds, but to beat Stainings and beat him convincingly. But Bycourt in second place is looking reasonably comfortable, and Andy Holden, ginger hair, in fourth place at the moment, and Dick Evans in fifth. These are the breakaway group, and there looks to be a slight gap between Stainings and Andy Holden at this stage as they're coming around the top to the water jump. Dennis Coates of Gateshead, a 22-year-old, set a personal best in winning his heat in 8:32.2, so he was very, very close to that Olympic qualifying, and he must have been disappointed to have had to run that fast to qualify for this final. But Coates from Bycourt and from Stainings, all these three showing pretty good technique in their hurdle clearance, and it's an event which is now starting to take shape in the world, with 8 men this year under 8 minutes 20. And the Anders Garderud of Sweden, of course, recently running that fantastic world record of 8 minutes 9.8. But Coates from Bycourt, from Stainings, from Holden, and 27, Clive Thomas has now crept up to challenge Holden for that 4th place. So Holden from Bycourt, from Stainings, these three. John Bycourt, a very good technician over the hurdles. It must be said that Dennis Coates could perhaps do with a little bit of work over the barriers. Tends to lose a little bit of form towards this vital water jump. So Dennis Coates, who's led throughout this race, now entering the straight, and he will see on the marker board that there are 2 laps to go. Andy Holden's gone. And 27, Clive Thomas of Thames Valley Harrier, the Welsh-born London teacher, is not looking too uncomfortable, but he's got about 15 or 20 metres to make up, and the top 3 now are starting to pace it. Stainings overtakes Bycourt. So, less than 2 laps to go now, and Coates remains in the lead. Now, John Bycourt seems to have lost a little bit of contact, 2 or 3 metres. As I suggested perhaps earlier, these 2 men at the front, there's a great deal on this race for them as individuals, and they will both be fighting for that place in the Europa Cup final. It's interesting to note that John Davis has chosen not to race in this 3,000-metre steeplechase here, and although he ran a very good 3,000 metres in Gateshead last week, it will be interesting to see exactly what the selectors do in selecting for that cup final. Coates seems to be breaking away 3 or 4 metres. He's upped his cadence a little bit, and Staining's now under pressure from Bycourt once again, and Clive Thomas making no ground on the front 3. It looks as though the medals are going to go to these 3, and they're coming up to the bell, and there's the bell. Dennis Coates from Stainings, from Bycourt, and Dennis Coates stuttered at that barrier, and it's very quick, and 8 minutes 32 could well be a possibility, and that's what Dennis Coates is all about. He must qualify for the Olympic Games now, and Stainings putting pressure on. He's gone for home. Dennis Coates, Stainings has got good cadence at this stage of the race. Bycourt looks to be gone, and Tony Stainings, the man at Western Kentucky University, takes Coates and starts to make for home, 200 metres from home, and it's pretty quick. And now let's see if Coates has got anything left in him, and see what Stainings does over this last water jump. Yes, it was good and strong and powerful, and comes into the straights. Now look at this time. Let's look at the time down the straight. It's 8 minutes 32 we're looking for. Tony Stainings of Bristol Athletics Club, the boy from the United States, being approached by Dennis Coates, but he's not going to be caught. And Tony Stainings, 8:29.8, raises his arms in the air. This will be a personal best for both these men, but Tony Stainings of Bristol pulled it out when it mattered. And there's John Bycourt in 3rd place, looking to him, and Stainings has just looked up at the board, looked at the time, jumps in the air, now trots back down the home straight to the acclaim of the crowd, because he knows it's a personal best, it's an Olympic qualifying standard, and he really should be in contention now for possible selection for the Europa Cup final in Nice in 2 weeks' time.
And the man he put out of contention is the man he must owe a great debt of gratitude, Dennis Coates of Gateshead. There he is, walking away dejected, did most of the work during the race, ran 2 personal bests, one in the heat, then in the final, broke the Olympic qualifying standard, was looking for a place in Nice, and all he succeeded in doing was pulling Tony Stainings to a lifetime best, nursed him round, and it was the better man over the flat, really had the faster finish, and congratulations all round to him. And suddenly, John Davis is not being so sadly missed as we at first thought. Although it would be great to see John Davis, the Thames Valley Harrier boy, in as our number 1. These two have suddenly bridged that gap that looked as though it would be an embarrassment to us at international level.